But as far as I can tell, they have backed off, and it seems like they're just going to let this person go. I believe they still have that helicopter above. I'm going to double check with that, but I think the helicopter, law enforcement helicopter, may be above, but we're not seeing that light. So they're doing that same tactic where if they are watching, they are just watching right now. This vehicle seems to be making a turn right here. We'll get some streets when we can, but his driving might have gotten a little better, but apparently still running from something out here, not sure what. Definitely. They have not. They've basically just backed off totally because of the high speeds. I do know that there is a law enforcement helicopter down there, and they are trying to coordinate where they're going to try to pick this up. I can tell you we're very, very close to the fashion center out here in the Costa Mesa area. This road that we're on was basically just paralleling that right there. It looks like we're going to be heading back out towards Jamboree. That's going to be the major. That's pretty much, he's going to dead end into that, so we'll see which way he goes. This is the area that we heard earlier on when we were making our way down here. Just getting a little bit wider shot because I know we're coming back up into another major intersection. You can see some other law enforcement in the area. There you go. He had his lights on protecting the public, but you can see not making a huge effort to get behind that vehicle. Right now they're monitoring this. They're going to keep an eye on it. They're trying to keep the public safe. But this person seems to be running from his own demons this evening. There isn't much law enforcement behind him, but his driving tactics have not gotten any better. Somebody is behind him right there, and I can tell you that we're on Jamboree right now, working our way back inland. I'm getting a little bit wider. That was the vehicle that was in this intersection earlier on. So we're going to try to figure out exactly. Newport Beach PD is picking it up right now, so that's going to be a Newport Beach unit. Whoa, 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 ho, 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 ho. Oh, that was a close one. You saw how hard he was on the brakes right there, all that smoke coming off, and thank goodness that vehicle wasn't hit. And it just gives you an idea, though. I mean, I'm not even sure if that person in the intersection knew what was happening out there, but that person there, this guy that we're pursuing right there in that green Nissan, hard on the brakes going through that red light. And this, again, shows you how dangerous this is for the public at large. Law enforcement, lights and sirens, they do what they can to keep the public safe. But when the person like this running red lights blatantly like that, even though it's nighttime, there's still traffic out here. There's still other folks out here. This car continuing now. We're going to be, I believe we're staying on Jamboree, but we're coming back up to some freeways, and you can see it, freeways coming up. It's going to be back up on the 73. Another, thank goodness, green light as you ran that major intersection. And we understand there's backup now coming up for that officer. Another hard red light. You see it right there. And it looks like we're getting over the freeway. And we're going to be seeing it. Looks like this is a westbound on-ramp for the 73. This vehicle, you know, that was a really super close call. And sometimes you just hope that the driver would say, oh, you know what? I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt myself, and just back down. But in this case, this car just continues trying to elude law enforcement. Helicopter overhead. Their call sign is Duke. You can see it on LA. It looks like a California Highway Patrol passing or got in front of that vehicle, now slowing down to let it pass. So they are being very ginger in their attitude towards this car. They're being very kind of hands off, just in the area, trying to keep the public safe. And Pat, we exited Birch off of the 73, so it is one of the whoa! Oh, there you go. First contact. Thank goodness it was what I would call a minor collision. Law enforcement right there behind it. I'm trying to stay a little bit wider to see if they're rendering aid or if they're going to continue on. But it does seem like they're doing a little bit of both down there. There's a number of units. But you see now this vehicle has been involved in a hit and run and got off the 71 that was at Birch. We're going to get you in Cross Street. But now continuing again. And we're not sure if Newport Beach is going to get behind it. But this car definitely damaged. And now we have a bunch of units, I understand, code 3 coming up behind it, and of course that helicopter above making these calls, starting to get a little windy out here. But this pursuit continuing in the Newport Beach, Irvine area. Campus. You know, he's making that every effort to get away, and of course you never want to see anybody hurt in any type of situation, especially a civilian. Not that law enforcement are less than civilians, but that person just minding their own business this evening, this crazy person comes across and this accident occurs. We saw that it seems to be very minor damage. Law enforcement, first responders already there. They did call for an ambulance. I know the major streets there where we were just earlier on were by campus, university, that type of area out here. Seems to be industrial. We're very close to the John Wayne Airport, so we're just kind of keep bouncing back and forth between the Irvine area, Newport Beach, Costa Mesa. That's been the general direction. The helicopter overhead still making the calls, telling the guys on the ground where this vehicle is, but again, they just want to bring this thing to an end. They don't want to be right up on, and it's coming back into that same intersection where he crashed just moments ago. You can see the law enforcement right there. Luckily, he had a green light. So this guy almost, or this person, let's be a little gender neutral this evening. This person driving that car, basically almost taunting officers, basically going through that same intersection where they just were, and continuing on Birch. This we saw earlier on is getting right back onto the 73. So now he's starting to make these big circles out here. Very dangerous for anybody involved. This person should just really pull over, just bring this thing to an end. Law enforcement, they're kind of stretched right now. They don't know which direction to go. They just want to keep the public safe. Another off-ramp. Northbound 55, getting back off at Baker. Pat, you know, we actually just looks like we're getting off at Baker, right off of the 55 freeway. He was on the 73. Made that turn onto Baker. Another looks like to be a one-way street out here in the Orange County area. We're basically, again, right next to John Wayne Airport. These are the streets that parallel the airport out here. Another hard turn. You know, if he's thinking that he's getting away from the law enforcement, well, he kind of has on the ground. There's that to be said. Officers on the ground have basically backed off, but the helicopter's still above. Even sometimes we've seen when they've been following a pursuit like this, they'll get a hold of other units in the area, kind of give them an idea where the car is, and they'll be paralleling out here. Every now and then when I do those wider shots, I'm just looking around to see if we can see any other cars in the area. But in this case, law enforcement actually just waiting to see what's going on. He's southbound again. I believe he's back on Baker, so he's basically going southbound, heading back towards the direction he came from. This vehicle, high speeds. We saw one impact with an innocent civilian earlier this evening. A lot of law enforcement in the area. They know what's going on. One helicopter above. Streets, roughly, this area, kind of industrial, so we're not going to see a lot of traffic. But this pursuit continuing on, high speeds. Nobody's behind them, Pat. Nobody at all. There's no law enforcement, and this car just continues to drive very erratically. High speeds, very dangerous. It doesn't seem like it's slowing it down. It seems to be a smaller four-door vehicle. We were being told earlier on that it's a Nissan. It looks like the damage is going to be on the driver's side on the rear passenger door. That's the area that's been impacted. But it seems like all four tires are still solid on this car. We saw that hard braking at one point where he was going through, ran a red light. This car still making a hard U-turn. So you got to wonder, maybe if he does know this area, maybe he's trying to get to a location. But at any rate, the helicopter's still above, still making the calls, talking to the units on the ground. Obviously, their plan right now to keep the public safe is to stay away from the car. Hopefully, this won't agitate that driver if they see the reds and blues and maybe he thinks this is some sort of game. I'm going to try to get away. You know what, Pat? I heard them say earlier on that there was only one person inside that vehicle, but you know, right now it almost looks like there's a passenger in there as well. Definitely, and earlier on they were saying that that person was by themselves. We heard one person in the vehicle very clearly. Now we're starting to see that there's actually two people in that car. And you just got to wonder what that conversation is in there. You know, if you got one person running from the officers, you're just thinking, well, that's one person with a mindset. But now you've got two people in the car. What person in that passenger seat says, hey, this is a great idea. Let's keep doing this. Let's keep driving reckless. You're making a great deal here. That helicopter we just saw in the shot, that actually was the Duke helicopter that's out here, one of the law enforcement. Orange County Sheriffs, excuse me, I just was corrected. The law enforcement, they get a little picky sometimes. It looks like we are in a residential neighborhood right now. We'll get some street names. I'm sure they're going to start calling them out. He has shut off the lights, so there are no lights, but you know when he steps on those brakes, we're going to see him. Hopefully there's going to be nobody else out here this evening. The streets are getting a little bit tighter, and this car continues on as we're in an area now that's very residential. We'll get you some residential street names here in just a moment. And maybe, you know what, maybe the passenger said, hey, you know what, this is really dark. Maybe you should turn your lights back on. You just got to wonder, though, what the mindset is when you have two people in a car driving at high speeds through the dark out there. They know helicopters are above them. They know there's law enforcement on the ground. They've actually driven by a number of vehicles or law enforcement vehicles that, yeah, just, you know, and you know, maybe the passenger's navigating. Who knows? But this case, this guy just keeps on driving out here. It looks like we're back onto Birch. This seems to be one of the streets that they seem to really tend to stick to. And we're going to keep an eye and see where he goes. The helicopter above, they actually handed it off. You got the Orange County Sheriff's Department over it right now. Law enforcement on the ground, they're being told, you can see right there, there's a couple of them waiting in the area. Perhaps it's going to be perhaps there's going to be a spike strip, but we can't say for sure, and definitely in the Irvine area. But out here, these roads are they're large. These are several lanes across. The one-way streets that we've been seeing have actually had 3 to 4 lanes, so it's going to be pretty difficult for them to actually lay out a spike strip out here to stop this vehicle. I just saw that it said 73 freeway. There was an on-ramp. It looks like they did not take it. And going back to the area where that crash was earlier on. So, you know, and so that right there is where that crash happened. There's that white car in the top part of the screen. So I don't know if this person's taunting officers or is just dumb luck that they keep coming around the same area. But this pursuit continuing out here, and now it looks like we're getting back onto the freeway. So Facebookers and CBSLA viewers on the app, yes, it's a pursuit. This is a tough one for me, guys and gals. I'm just letting you know. Orange County is not my area. I've been listening to Pat, talking to Pat on television, and it's one of those things where I'm listening to two scanners up here right now, trying to get street names, trying to get ideas where we are at, and then, of course, working to interact with Pat. To me, her voice more important than anybody else. We know that they missed a spike strip just a few moments ago. Looks like negative contact on the spike strip. And again, I don't like to give away anything when they're on the streets like this. I don't want to say, hey, they're setting up a spike strip. I did hear them talk about it earlier on. I don't think that the people in that, 3 occupants. Whoa, whoa, ho! Whoa, ho, ho! And that car is not going anymore. I hear there's 3 people inside that car. No doors have popped open after that crash. Big Rig, there you go. One person out the window trying to make a run. Oh, if he tries to carjack that car, that's going to be something. Yeah. Yeah, lock those doors, buddy. There you go. Officers making their way here right now. Number of officers. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, now he's doing the, oh, yeah, I give up. Look at that. Look at that. Bristol and Pomerano. Bristol and Pomerano. You got one person in custody. You got another person kind of making their way out of the back of the car. An older gentleman with a cane. You just got to wonder what was going on inside that car. What was that conversation in there? Crazy. Crazy. Oh. Yeah, he tossed that guy's cane away. That's one of those ones, too, where, some people might be saying, oh, that wasn't nice, and he needs that cane. That could be used as a weapon. You got to consider what this person's been doing all evening. That we've been watching them, all these kind of crazy moves, a couple of crashes. They were saying 3 people in the end, but it does appear that there's only probably only 2 people. That truck driver, this is one of those times again where you just kind of look at that and you say, that's a commercial driver. That driver there, he's a commercial driver, makes his living driving that vehicle. That type of collision, obviously everybody watching saying wasn't his fault. But you also got to think, this might be something that goes on this guy's record. Obviously, he works for an employer that's probably not his vehicle. All these things add up, and it's just that part is just a shame. That collision happening again out here in the Orange County area. Technically, I believe that this is going to be Mesa Del Mar, but I'm just going to kind of round it out and say the Irvine area. This pursuit coming to an end with a crash involving a big rig. Officers still out here. They've taken at least 2 people in custody. At one point, they were saying 3 people inside that car. This thing coming to a crashing end. Since I got you guys on, my desk is going to tell me to go home. Since I got you guys on the web, tomorrow, the podcast comes out. It's going to be the Shot in the Dark guys, Stringers. I think that's kind of relevant to what's going on. So you take a look for that. Go ahead, assignment desk. I know one of the crosses was Pomerano. Let me turn on the power of SkyMap 9000. And I heard Pomerano, but it looks more like Paul Areno. Paul Areno and Bristol. Paul Areno and Bristol. All right, Facebookers, thank you for my buddy Tim Conway Jr. saying awesome coverage. Thank you for that, Tim. Dude, I am not an Orange County guy. I got to tell you, I know some of these streets because when we go to John Wayne Airport and we get a car, we're in this area. But a lot of these streets I didn't know. I never want to give any kind of wrong information, and that's why I was guessing. I think that's Jamboree. I don't know if that's Jamboree. That crash happening out here at the corner of Paul Areno and Bristol. If you guys are still with us, make sure you check out our podcast. It's going to be Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. It's In the Air with Stu Mundell. And we're doing the Shot in the Dark guys. Shot in the Dark, all the three big ones. I had a blast. I'm sure that the energy will translate in the actual podcast. Of course, CBS LA, that's the place to be. Feed the machine. You got to let them know that you love it. Otherwise, they'll just be sad. You don't want a sad machine. And we got a couple of people we got 2 in custody, so I'm guessing there's 2. There were only 2 in there. And, of course, 3 in custody. Where did the third guy go? How did we miss that? Oh, you probably yeah. Maybe it was when they were running around because you got the older guy was sitting on the corner. Anyway. Yeah. And that's the guy that was, like, running around. No, that's the guy that's the guy with the cane. Why are the police not clearing the car? Pretty sure they're sure everybody's out of it. Let's take a look. They're doing it right now. Dana, you are. Somebody's talking about Tim Conway on the podcast. We did Tim Conway. He was like first, second. He was one of the very first to do the podcast with me. So I was like super happy to hear that. When he said yes, but anyhow, we've already done that. But anyway, this Friday it's going to be the Night Crawlers. I'm sorry, not the Night Crawlers. I hate it when people say that. I don't even know where that came from. I'm tired. Okay, flying around. There might be another one. I'm all about it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure they're willing to pay for that. Remy finally joining the feed out here. Finally, I wonder who he was watching if he wasn't watching us. Remy. Brendan and I have feelings. Just letting you know, and you're hurting them. We're going to discuss all this on Saturday, Remy. Truck driver should get a reward. I just hope that guy's okay. And, I mean, we saw him get out. He actually was using a fire extinguisher to make sure that car doesn't catch fire. But, the reality is that's a commercial driver. He has a commercial driver's license. He's working for a company. I hope he doesn't have any problems because of this accident. I'm being very serious about that. This is our boss telling us it's time to go home. Go ahead. You know what? I don't know if that was a driver that jumped out the window and tried to run off. You can see the driver's side doors don't open. There is some discussion here about 2 or 3. We saw 2. Law enforcement still kind of insistent that there's 3. So I don't know. We saw 2 going into custody. Yeah, he was one of the 2 that we saw, the older guy. Copy all. Pat Harvey texted me it ended too soon. You know it, Pat. You know it. It just happened as soon as I guess they were going. They're off the air. We might as well bring this to an end. Anyways, everybody that's watching, thanks for hanging out for the last couple of minutes there. I see the numbers are dwindling. Pursuit, Orange County, kind of a wild one. Law enforcement trying those new tactics, and did it work? That's not for us to decide. We just sit here and we watch it. Thanks for the love. Rotorhead 8, that's my pilot, Brennan. And, of course, I'm Stu_Mundell. Hashtag CBSLA, that's the big one. Go like it, join it.